Welcome to Screen Weens, a brand new era, brand new day. Dawn has arrived for the new rebirth of Screen Weens, starring London and Thomas. Nothing's actually changed.
Nope. Hello. Except we're talking about Song Kang-ho today.
Song Kang-ho!
This weekend was brutal.
Oh,
the
yeah?
fucking heat. I don't know how hot it was in Chehalis, but...
Oh, yeah, no, it was plenty warm enough. Let's see. On Saturday, we worked a full day in the heat. That sucked. And then Sunday, when everyone... Oh, 9/11. Sunday, when all the other restaurants in town closed down, but we didn't, around 6 o'clock, within the span of half an hour, we got, so many orders that we had to actually close down and spend the next few hours catching up with the orders we had gotten in just that half-hour period, because, dinner time hit, nowhere was open, and everyone in town was like, pizza.
Pizza!
You know what? We should have something like a hot, steaming pizza on this hot day.
It's like Dairy Queen was also open, and I had to deliver past them a few times, and they were the line was out into both lanes of traffic in town, so that's more understandable. They got ice cream there.
Yeah.
We don't have ice cream. We've got hot pizza. But
Can you just cook a pizza and then freeze it for us so it's like a frozen treat?
we have customers that will call and order pizzas to freeze, and it's why not just get fucking frozen pizza?
Yeah, or isn't there there's not a Papa Murphy's down there, is there?
We've got a Papa Murphy's. We don't have a Papa John's.
Isn't Papa Murphy's the one where they go and they don't cook it, they just make it and you take it? Why wouldn't they just go there? I need a Domino's pizza to freeze.
They need our cornmeal crust. And hopefully that's not secret. I don't think it is.
Tom's about to be fired.
I mean, you could...
Live on the podcast, Domino's is calling him.
You can look at the pizza and see all the cornmeal there. I mean, I think most people call it, salt or something. I don't know what they would think it is, but it's cornmeal. That nice grainy seasoning that gets everywhere on your lap and chest when you're eating a Domino's pizza. Yeah. Unless you're eating with a plate directly underneath it. But yeah. Yeah, the fucking heat wave fucking sucked. And then on Monday, they just completely closed down, which is good, because that's when I watched most of these movies. And if that day didn't close, I don't know if I'd be
London?
I probably would have prioritized the movies, but Hearts of Atlantis, I probably would have been
Yeah, because we're recording. That's the one thing about this thing is we record usually a deep dive and
I know, I always forget.
Book, and I'm like, oh, that's the same day.
I'm always I'll have to watch 2 movies and read a book, and then I get to 2 days.
And you don't read the book for 28 of those 30 days.
Yeah, and then I get to the end, I'm like, I'll just have to read a book and speed watch 2 movies. And then I'm like, oh fuck, I've always got 5 movies, because it's always during a deep dive. They're usually pretty long movies, too. Most deep dive movies tend not to be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Cases, but...
That's why we need to bring back Uwe Boll.
Alright, that man knows how to make either a good short picture or a good long picture. Because all of his films are good.
Yeah.
Welcome
to today's sponsor, Uwe Boll. Come on in! Woo! No.
In the Name of the King or whatever that one was.
Rampage.
Rampage, that movie.
We just watched Rampage 2 and 3. And Blood Rain 2 and 3. And In the Name of the King 2 and 3.
One day.
House of the Dead 2. And Alone in the Dark 2.
I'd be more open to those last 2 you mentioned. I don't know about...
Not In the Name of the King 2 and 3?
I'd probably watch those. Blood Rain and Rampage. Maybe Blood Rain. I don't know if I want to watch Rampage 2 and 3. Those movies were not my cup of tea. Or the first one was not my cup of tea.
Rampage and The Fanatic would go well together.
they're both about equally as, wow, I don't enjoy watching this movie at all. I forgot we watched The Fanatic. We didn't talk about that on the last episode because it happened after.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Do you want to go back in time? Yeah, we really wanted to get into the Wild Hog spirit afterwards, so we watched The Fanatic, and I was really bad. And not even, like, enjoyable bad, because I had heard that it was, like, funny bad, and there were, like, 2 parts that I'm like, okay, that's, I guess.
Yeah, I think...
But most of it was just like, oh...
I think the only part that got, like, a somewhat genuine laugh from me that wasn't just sheer uncomfortable, like, giggles was, the part where he dresses up as a British man. Like, the initial time when he did that, I was like, what the hell? And then there's a part where he explains later, he's like, some people actually think I'm British, but I'm not. And I'm just like, okay. That was a classic John Travolta moment. Is pretty okay funny for this movie. But yeah, no, the rest of that movie was abysmal. You got some pop vinyls?
Yeah, 2 of my coworkers they just got me pop figures. They got me, Watto and Suburba.
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, at least you know Jedi mind tricks won't work on your little pop
Watto.
Yeah, not for both of them, clearly.
Yeah, Suburba would get wrecked. Yeah. Let's see. Well, what did you do the rest of the week?
Well, aside from reading and watching some Kang-ho movies, I watched the European cut of Dawn of the Dead. Because the movie originally came out in Europe with, like, the shortest cut of the film, and then it later got the theatrical version that, like, released over here, which upped the runtime a little bit. And then there's, like, an extended cut, but that one's just, like, a rough cut for what would eventually become the theatrical. The definitive version is, like, the theatrical, according to George Romero. But the European cut, I watched it once when I was a kid, and I watched it now because I haven't seen this in years. I want to see...
You're like, I want to feel like a kid again.
I want to see how it holds up. Plus, I hadn't watched Dawn of the Dead in a while in general, so... it holds up pretty well. It's a pretty decent cut. It trims out a lot of stuff that I like, but I think, like, anyone who watches the movie and finds it to be boring or thinks it doesn't have enough of the Goblin soundtrack, they would probably like that version more. So
we just need to take the European cut soundtrack, splice it into the theatrical cut.
I don't really think it's necessary. It's just that it plays more often. I don't think they necessarily play more tracks from it.
Okay.
And there's some tracks from the American cut that I like that aren't present in it, like the Gonk, which is most famously known as, like, the Robot Chicken theme, the dun 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 dun. That's in that movie. But yeah.
George Romero made Robot Chicken? Is that what you're saying?
I wish. But yeah, so I watched that, and then I watched Day of the Dead.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
I still haven't seen Dawn of the Dead.
Well,
I've seen Night on the podcast. I've seen Dawn.
The remake?
Day. I meant Day. Okay. And then, I've seen the remake of Dawn, but it was when I was, like, 7 or something like that. It was on television, so... I watched F9.
Oh, yeah? How was that?
It's stupid. But, like, they take a car to space. I mean, I like the Fast and Furious movies for being dumb, and this was dumb, so I enjoyed it. There's a part where Vin Diesel fights, like, 35 guys in a sewer.
Oh, nice.
It was awesome. It was pretty weak in comparison to the last couple movies. Like, the villain sucked in this one. John Cena was funny in it. Like, I just kept laughing that him and Vin Diesel were supposed to be, like, brothers in it. It's just like,
okay.
It was funny, though. It was a fun time. It's not as good as the last, like, 3, but I liked it.
Okay.
And we also watched Iron Man 3, just continuing the MCU. That one's okay. In general, I just don't think any of the Iron Man movies are good. Iron Man 3 has a lot going for it. I really like the ideas behind it, but I think all of those ideas are underdeveloped.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I feel about all 3 of them across the board, too.
Yeah. But at least in Iron Man 2, Whiplash is like, I want my bird.
True.
I think that in general, I still like Iron Man 2 the most, just because it's the most, like, fun. I like Whiplash. I like his stupid costume.
I probably like 2 the best as well, but I think I like it mainly because I like the Tony and his father plot in it. I think that's, at least from what I remember, the most interesting part of that movie. Oh, yeah. And it's got Sam Rockwell.
Yeah. He needs to come back. I hope he comes back for, like, Armor Wars. It would make sense, because, like, Hammer Industries is a huge thing in the comics, and that's his thing. Yeah.
Marvel, you better bring back Sam Rockwell.
I mean, and they're bringing back Tim Roth as Abomination and She-Hulk, and he also shows up in the trailer for Shang-Chi, the new one coming out. I'm like, yo, Abomination's coming back.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. I didn't even know if that film was still considered canon.
Yep. Yeah. Nobody does, but yes, it is. Yeah. Other than that, I was just trying to read. It was really, the days that it was hot, I was just like, we're just not doing, like, anything. I'm just like, it's too hot. It's too hot to do anything.
Yeah.
I was trying to read, I'm like, I'm just sweating.
No. Yeah, no. It was bad.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the greatest actor to ever live. Song Kang-ho. He's amazing. I really, really, really love him.
Yeah, no. I remember I had only seen him in, what's that movie? I always want to call it Trainspotting. Snowpiercer.
They should do a South Korean remake of Trainspotting with him in it.
They should.
Where he plays a 30 or like a 25-year-old. Like, I'm Song Kang-ho.
He could play the older, crazier guy from that movie.
Yeah. Yo, that would be awesome, actually.
But I had only ever seen him in that movie, and he's Song Kang-ho in that movie, but he's not like, I don't know. I don't think he stands out as much in that movie, especially if you don't know who he is.
Yeah. I felt the same way, because I think that was the first movie I saw from him as well.
And then you had shown me the host for one of our like movie days over here, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then just more of his movies he kept showing us, and I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah. And then we eventually watched Memories of Murder.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, that and Taxi Driver, as I don't know if we watched those the same night or if it was pretty close.
I think that was the same night.
Yeah, because I think we were
doing a South Korean film stuff.
And I just remember that night being like, holy fuck. This guy's great. And yeah, no, he is.
Yeah. And he was like never really like, he didn't go to like school to learn, and he got into the game pretty late, like late 20s, like early 30s.
Yeah. I saw
some of the movies we're talking about are like some of his earliest works as well.
Mm-hmm. I saw at least I think all of his segments from is the movie called The Day the Pig Fell into the Well or whatever.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Yeah.
It's by Hong Sang-soo, I think his name is.
I don't remember.
Who's like a director who's been on my list for a long time. Not just for that movie. I've just heard he has lots of good movies. But I haven't seen that movie. Was he epic? That was like 99, right? That was pretty early.
Yeah. From what I remember, he pretty much kind of plays a similar character to like what he plays in which movie was that? I don't know, like, it's one of those movies where he's like a character who's like clearly depressed and not living the life he wants to lead, and kind of does like some like cringy, just like standoffish things because of it. It kind of reminds me of like the scene from The Foul King where he like goes up and does karaoke. Like, I feel like that scene is a pretty good like tone setter for his segments in The Day the Pig Fell into the Well.
Good.
Whatever that movie's called.
But yeah, that was the first movie he was in, and then he was in Greenfish in that small role. Yeah. That was the next year. Which we've also covered. Yeah, which we've covered.
Check out the episode. It's old, and I don't know if we're on camera for it.
It's long. It's old.
Yeah.
And then he was in a movie called Timeless, Bottomless, Bad Movie. Which I haven't seen. I've heard it's pretty good. I like the name. And he was in something called Number 3. I don't think he's the main character in that. And then he was in The Quiet Family, which I've seen. I can't remember if you've seen that. That's also by Kim Ji-woon.
I don't think so.
And Kim Ji-woon is the guy who did The Foul King.
Oh, okay.
And he did like The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. And he did I Saw the Devil. He's done a bunch of stuff. And he's in that with Choi Min-sik. That was one of my first introductions to Song Kang-ho as well. Or maybe not my first. I had seen him in a couple of things, but Michael showed me that movie. And then he was in this movie called Shiri, which is also with Choi Min-sik. And then The Foul King, Joint Security Area, were both in 2000. And then 2002, I think, was Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. The next year, he was in Memories of Murder. In general, after that, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of years later, The Host and The Show Must Go On were the same movie. Or same year, the same movie. I think Thirst was 2008. No, 2009. And then Snowpiercer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the movies we're covering are in, like, the early segments of his career.
Yeah, and then he was in Parasite and blew up over here in the West.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad that I was, like, I hate to be, like, hipsterish, but I'm glad that I was able to, like, at least be a little bit ahead of the curve on that. To be like, oh, like, I know who this guy is before, like, it actually blew up. I mean, obviously it was coming, and he had already been, like, obviously South Korean movies have been over here for a little, like, gaining popularity over here for a while.
But in general, it's so much nicer to, like, be able to explain my favorite movie to people more easily, because I go, it's this movie called Memories of Murder, and they're like, what's that? I'm like, did you see Parasite, or have you heard of Parasite? And most people are like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, it's by the same director, and it has the same starring guy, and it's, like, 10 times better. Even though I love Parasite, but, like, Memories of Murder is, like, the greatest movie I've ever seen, so.
Yeah, no, like, I feel like Memories of Murder for me is, like, a 10, and, like, Parasite's, like, a very high 9, and possibly a 10. I just have...
I have Parasite at a 10, and I have Memories of Murder at a 10, but it's still, like, whoa.
Yeah, I need to rewatch Parasite. It's been a while.
For me, too.
I watched it a couple times when it first came out, and then I just haven't watched it since. But it's a good movie.
That's why next week we're doing Song Kang-ho Part 2. No, I'm just fucking... but yeah. Song Kang-ho is awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
You ready to start?
No, I wanna share this Richard Band stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going through my email last night because I'm trying to find a decent place to watch Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. It's the one on Tubi TV had some fucking issue where, like...
Oh, it was on Hulu.
Yeah, that's where I ended up watching it eventually. But, so, like, the subtitles were saying, like, but it would be spelled, like, FM, and it would, like, typos like that were just riddled throughout the whole thing. I'm like, alright. I tried watching that, and I was like, alright, this is gonna distract me the entire fucking movie. So then I looked at Vudu, and I'm like, alright, I'll go to Vudu. And then they wouldn't send me my fucking password reset link because I couldn't remember my password. So during this part, I'm in my emails, and I see that 6 days ago, Richard Band emails me. Now, a little bit of a backstory. I think I mentioned this a handful of episodes ago whenever it happened. I had reached out to Richard Band, who is the brother of Charles Band of Full Moon Productions. He makes not all the music for all their movies, but he makes a large sum of the music for the Full Moon movies. And I thought, wow, we meme and watch a lot of Full Moon movies. It'd be cool to have Richard Band do a Screen Weens theme. And I reached out to him. He got back to me and was like, yeah, just let me know, like, what the project is and I can maybe think about it. And I told him we were a movie podcast and he never responded. So, cut to 6 days ago when I get an email from him. Here, let me read it, because...
to preface this, do you think this is like a hacked account situation?
Oh, most definitely. Let me read the emails. I don't think that this is crossing a line because it's not actually him. It's his actual email, which I will not give away, even though you can find it on his website. Let me see. So, initially, he He sent me a message that, just out of the blue, June 24th, that said, "Hi, I hope you and your family are in good health. I need a quick favor from you. Kindly reply as soon as you receive my mail. Best, Richard Band." So I'm like, this is strange. I didn't have that sort of a relationship where he would reach out to me. I emailed him once and he ignored me. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just reply. So I sent him a message saying, "Greetings. Greetings. I have just received your mail. I must admit I am intrigued as to what this favor is. My family is fine. How are you and your family?" To which he responds, "Thanks for responding. I am sorry for bothering you with this mail. I need to get an eBay gift card for my friend. It's her birthday and I can't do this now because my knees are giving me problems as well. I am going up and down one step at a time. This method is neither graceful or fast." Both graceful or fast have exclamation points after them. "And I tried purchasing online, but unfortunately, no luck with that. Can you get it from any store around you? I'll pay back. Kindly let me know if you can handle this. Await your soonest response." Now, that message, it said it was from Richard Brand, but when I looked closer, the name was Richard Brand, but this one was from a different email. The last one was actually from his email. This one was from, like, ladycork@gmail, and I was like, okay, so I just responded to his actual email. Like, I composed a new email to his email, because I was like, I'm not going to email this random email, even though they clearly have my email address. So I basically responded one more time saying, "I'm sorry to hear about your knees. I'm glad you had the foresight to message me 6 days ago and I managed to catch the message just in time for your friend's birthday. I don't understand why your last email came from Lady Cork and not your actual personal email address. Is this some alt account of yours? Also, have you thought about asking Charles? I'm sure he'd be able to secure you an eBay card. I unfortunately also have bad knees and can't go to the store." To which they never replied. So yeah, Richard Band has been hacked.
Or he just needs
or
an
maybe
eBay
he
gift
needs
card.
an eBay card and his knees are actually bad.
What if you had gotten this and he composed something for us? What if he needed you? He's old.
Richard, reach out to me.
Send a selfie.
Send a selfie so I know it's you.
A selfie is a photograph that is taken by yourself, usually with your phone as such. You take a picture of yourself.
Send me a picture of you with a note that says, "I need eBay card," and I will get you that eBay
Tommy Griffin.
Yes. And, offer's still open. If you want to write the Screen Weens theme,
if you want to write the script
welcome.
to the next DDoSer movie, you can come on and collaborate with me. It'll be a full moon production.
What if they did that, but like Charles Band wanted to own the character rights? Would you do it, or would you back off? Would you be like, no?
I'd probably do it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about DDoSer mostly.
Fair.
I think it's a funny thing. But, like, it's not something that I, like, care deeply about. Also, he'll be dead in 20 years. I can probably get the rights back by then. I'd be like, okay, but when you die, I get them back.
There you go.
I'd write that in the clause.
But, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, so I guess you just want to dive into, what's the first one? It'd be Falcon.
The Falcon, yeah.
This is the last one I watched.
Me too. I just finished this like 20 minutes before we got here. I started to watch it last night at like 2 a.m., but then I suddenly got extremely tired. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I finished this one at like 6:30 in the morning.
What a weirdo.
Yeah, I was up all night watching.
Up all night to get lucky.
Yeah, and then I took like a 3-hour nap and I woke up and finished Hearts of Atlantis. Oh, God. And that book is so fucking boring. I'm just...
What?
Straight up say...
The ghost is out there.
Well, I'll save it. I'll save it.
This isn't even the right podcast.
Yes.
Alright, so the Falcon is about Song Kang-ho. He works at like a bank. He's like a bank teller or like... Yeah.
He does something there.
He does something there.
Well,
not very well.
Yeah, his boss.
His boss, like, hates him, and, like, beats him up. But he decides, he's like, I want to become a wrestler.
Yeah, because his boss, like, basically corners him in the bathroom and puts him in a headlock, and he's like, I have to learn how to escape this headlock. I know. I'll go to a karate place. And, like, the guy leading the karate place is, like, seems like a hack. He's got, like, a neck brace, and he's like, yeah, if someone's got you in a chokehold, you just gotta, like,
you gotta, he says you just gotta, if he hasn't, just kick him upward. Just kick all the way up, hit him in the head.
Yeah, so he's just like, all right, I'm gonna go. So he
goes, like, walking, and he sees, like, an amateur studio, and they're, like, looking for amateur wrestlers. And like, I could do that, because he remembers, like, in his youth, he watched wrestling a lot.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so he goes inside and meets the old coach, who is like, you dumb fuck, get the fuck out of here. He's like, come on, at least show me how to get out of a headlock. So he's like, all right, fine, put me in a headlock. And so Kang-ho puts the old coach in a headlock, and then he just tickles his torso. He's like, ah! And, like, backs off, and he's like, get the fuck out of here. So anyway, turns out the old coach has got, like, it's like an old student of his, or like someone who he trained, who has gotten, like, successful, it seemed. That's
Yubiho or something like that?
Yeah, and basically this guy wants a cheat, but he can't get one from his other, like, source of fighters, so he's basically going to the coach, and he's like, I need you to train me a cheat. Because these people won't do it. Someone charming, someone who's, like, a character. So he's like, okay. And the Kang-ho guy just keeps hanging around my gym for no fucking reason. So yeah, sure, why not? I'll train him how to fight. And then, the movie is kind of like, I don't know, if you ever watched, like, boxing or a wrestling anime, it feels like it's following, like, those basic, like, plot beats of a typical sports anime where he's like, I'm bad, I'm kind of goofy.
Except he never wins.
Yeah, it never reaches that threshold.
He almost does then. Like, he does some good shit. And then he does get wrecked, though. And then goes to the hospital.
Wait, so he... okay, I'm a little unclear on the ending fight results. Because I thought that he had kind of gone over the line of where they were supposed to go, and that, like, he didn't technically take out the other guy, but the other guy ended up fucking himself up in that final move.
I mean, yeah, that too. But, like, they also said that if you cheat, you lose by default. Oh, and he did that a lot in that fight. So.
Well, I figured the whole, like, gimmick was, like, he has to cheat, but as long as he's not caught cheating, and that was, like, the whole show. Like, there's that bit where he, like, puts the blade in his mouth.
That was fun.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there's some decent sequences. He, like, ends up falling in love with, like, the coach's daughter, or
yeah, because there's another lady that he's, like, in love with that he works with, and he's in love with her for, like, no reason. But then he also falls in love with the coach's daughter.
I think.
Well, at least it's leaning that way. Yeah. He has feelings.
The movie kind of ends on, like, the anti-ending of what you would expect for this movie, because he wins. He goes to
confront his boss, and then he trips. And then it just ends.
And we also see that in that scenario where he goes to fight his boss, he also leaves the girl behind, because she goes to get him some, like, oatmeal or something in the hospital.
He's like, I gotta go do this.
Yeah, but he doesn't say anything, he just leaves.
Yeah.
So she's just like, oh, okay. And yeah, this is a fun little movie. I liked it.
I really like this movie. This reminds me a lot of The Quiet Family, which was Kim Ji-woon's first movie. And it also had Song Kang-ho, and it has a lot of, like, dark, like, physical comedy to it. That movie's about, like, a family that owns, like, a bed and breakfast on a mountain, and it's, like, a cursed bed and breakfast, so everyone that shows up just dies. Oh. And they keep, like, they're like, oh, fuck, we just bought this, we need the money, so they keep hiding the bodies. That's a fun movie.
It's like Blood Shack.
Yeah. Great movie. But that has a lot of like fun physical comedy with Song Kang-ho, and Song Kang-ho is really good at physical comedy.
He's really good at like just physical sequences.
He doesn't do that a lot, like in general. Like he does like the drop kick and stuff, and he does that so much in this movie. I was just like, yeah.
There's a lot of good like physical stuff from him in this movie. Like there were points where I'm like, I think that's a stunt double, but there were other points where it looked like he had been doing like half the shit, and I was like, oh fuck, okay.
There are actual moments where I'm like, yo, that's actually pretty epic. Like when he fights the people that were like bullying him, the random like thugs on the street or whatever. He just like beats the shit out of them real quick. He puts on the mask, turns around, they're like, what the fuck?
I love the sequence in the final fight where, I don't know if this was actually him doing it or if it was a stunt double. The whole thing's kind of in silhouette, if I remember correctly, but where he's like doing the drop kick thing from the stands against the guy and they both like meet and collide.
Yeah.
I thought that part was pretty cool.
And there was, earlier in that fight, like, randomly he just, like, does a backflip and then does a kick, and he fails at that, but I'm just like, the way they shot that, I'm like, yo!
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, I thought this was just gonna be kind of like a fun little comedy drama, but there's some cool fight sequences in it.
Oh, definitely.
I really like the way they shot those wrestling sequences, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. And in general, I think Song Kang-ho's fantastic in this movie. I'm going to say that about all 5 movies, though, probably.
Yeah.
And then there are some plot threads that don't necessarily get finished all the way, but I kind of like it because it feels like his friend... he like quits because something's going on, like the boss is like using him for something. I think they're taking out a loan that's way too big on somebody so that they can get more money, and they're not supposed to be doing that. And then they're like, no, we'll take the blame, but then they just blame it on him kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then he just like freaks out and quits. And Song Kang-ho like tries to stop him, but he just walks out. And I kind of like that just because it's like, Song Kang-ho is so obsessed with this wrestling that like everything around him's just like falling to the side, and he has no idea this has been happening. While his friend's like being like, "Hey, can we go out for a drink? I need to talk and stuff." He's like, "Sorry, I can't."
Yeah, I kind of wish that they had like brought that just a little more full circle, like, but
yeah, I get that too. Like it's,
but yeah, it definitely seems like the movie's got that kind of tone about it where it's like. You can tell that Song Kang-ho is, like, not making the best decisions.
Yeah. In general, this movie's also, like, if you think about it for more than, like, 2 seconds, it's pretty sad, too.
Oh,
like, he's being bullied at work. He can't, like, he's just in a job he doesn't like. And his boss is
let him be himself.
His dad is not great to him. And he's finally finds somewhere that he's like, okay, maybe I can learn something. And they immediately are just like, okay, we're going to train this guy to be like a cheat. And he's like, I just want to learn how to defend myself. And he was a really big fan of wrestling and stuff. He's like, why do I have to keep cheating? Mm-hmm. And that's why I really like that ending, like, wrestling match, because he stops cheating, like, halfway through, and there's some, like, cool fights and stuff. And it shows, like, earlier when he fought those just random guys on the street that had been attacking him, that, like, he has the capability to just be a wrestler or to just be a fighter. And he's like, no, just let me fight. So there's, yeah.
Yeah, and they like, demask him during the fight too, which I think is meant to be like a way to basically like, I don't know if it was meant to imply like if he hadn't been demasked, if he could like theoretically get back into the wrestling scene as like a different character, but because they demasked him, he's like, it basically like fucks up his storyline or whatever. I'm not sure if that's what the implication was.
I think that might be part of it, and for him,
because obviously he looked up to the tiger mask.
Yeah, the one wearing. That he took.
Yeah.
Which was his old coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like in Cars.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm. And they find out that Doc Hudson was the Hudson Hornet.
Poor bastard. But yeah, this one's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought I also liked that this was the last movie I watched. I thought it had a fun tone after some of the other more depressing ones.
Yeah, the one I watched before this one was not as fun.
Was it Sympathy?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, that was. I was just like la la la. I'm like. And I should have known because it's part of the Vengeance trilogy, which is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, and Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. And Old Boy is fucked up and depressing.
I haven't seen it yet, but one day.
Oh, shit.
One day.
I forgot. Yeah, we'll do that in the remake.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, also I really like the soundtrack to this. It's very fun. There's a lot of really fun songs in this one.
Yeah, I've got a question real quick while we're just kind of on the subject of vengeance. There's another movie called Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance that came out in like 2018. I saw it like popping up when I was like looking. I just wanted to know if you knew anything about it, if it's like a remake or.
I know I don't think this was ever made.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't seem like anyone's seen it. I know that in 2010, film rights in the U.S. were bought for an American remake, but they probably scrapped that after Old Boy did so poorly.
Yeah, fair.
Hopefully it doesn't just show up.
Let's see. Yeah, it says directed by Hani Abu Assad. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Yeah, 6 people have seen it. And they probably haven't. Knowing how some people will just say it, like, there's some movies that aren't, like, even out yet that I feel like I see, like, the icon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if that's true.
But yeah.
Yeah.
You'd give this movie a 7. 6? Wow. You hate Song.
Please. You would give this movie a 10. No, you'd probably give it like a 7 or an 8.
Give it an 8. No, I give all these movies a 10. Alright, Joint Security Area, which is by Park Chan-wook, who we've talked about before, and who did 2 of the movies we're talking about today.
This movie sucked. I hated it. It was the worst. No, this movie is fucking great.
There's one part of this movie that like goes throughout the whole thing that I just don't think is a great idea for the movie. But other than that, I think this movie's phenomenal. I don't think the investigation, like...
Yeah,
I just think that if they just started it from the beginning and ran with it, I think it would have been fine.
I think the investigation worked for kind of telling it out of, like...
Out of order a little bit. But,
a little bit.
But they kind of drop it for, like, the middle part, too. And so I'm just like... I don't think they do enough with it to really justify it. I think they need a little more.
Film that way. I think it might have worked better had they just like introduced that plot thread like partway through the movie. But they wanted to keep that like aura of mystery in the beginning, I guess. Because like when the film starts, you know, at least me, I didn't know anything about this movie. I wasn't sure what to expect. You know, Song Kang-ho looked evil. He's like North Korean. He's got like a big scar under his eye and he seems kind of like a jerk. Then he turns out to be the like world's biggest sweetheart.
Yeah.
Basically what happens is there is some like South Korean soldiers who like go over the line at the border without knowing it. And one of them gets left behind and he gets stuck. He's in like a mine. He triggers it and he's like, oh no, I can't move or else I'm going to blow up. So then Song Kang-ho and,
that guy was also in The Falcon. I don't know if you recognize him. He was one of the guys that he fought. The like guys just hanging out on the street that like chased him earlier, and then he went to beat up.
I didn't notice.
And he's also in he's in another one of these movies as well. He might have been in he was Ryu in Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance as well.
Which one was Ryu?
That was the deaf the main character.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was in Joint Security Area, The Falcon. Yeah.
The green hair.
And he's also... Yeah, the green hair really... I'm like, I know this guy, but he has green hair. He's also in Thirst as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure he's the guy that they, like, throw in the water.
I need to watch that movie. I remember not liking it very much.
What?
It was just... I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. Anyway,
I'm gonna see what you gave.
I'd probably give it like a 7 or a 6.
God, I need to figure out what day that was. What week? Number 5. Week number 5.
But, yeah. So, yeah, basically, he starts, like, going over, and Just like...
Week number 5 was literally just a song Kang-ho week, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he gave it a 7.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember not being like...
That was a great week, though.
As blown away by that one. But, yeah, no, like... Basically, he starts, like, sparking up a friendship with these two... they're both basically, like, on the front line, like, guards people, essentially. I don't know what their proper title would be, but they basically sit in little shacks.
It's like border patrol,
like, on the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, basically, like, at night, he'll go over there and just play games with them and just talk and...
Yeah, they started with just, like, throwing notes to each other. Mm-hmm. And then the one other North Korean guard, like, sent a note, like, as a joke saying, like, come on over. And then he shows up and they're like,
Yeah. And... Yeah, basically...
the whole middle chunk's just, like, them having a good time.
Eventually, he brings over...
The other South Korean guard... Can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, but and he's a little more hesitant and freaked out because he's newer to the concept, and also it's just like he's like they're North Korean, you can't be doing this. And yeah, that I don't know. I like this movie. I like how it's not afraid to like kind of show how complicated like the matters can be, like
how there are not evil people on both sides, like the regular people on both sides are just like people.
Mm-hmm. And it's like you know, part of you wants to think like going into this that like Song Kang-ho's character, he's the one who's the most vocal about like how firm he is with North Korea, and you would expect him like over the course of the film to be like, oh, maybe, you know, he'll, like, go over...
But no, he's just like, no, I like my country, but I can still be friends with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that to be, like, pretty interesting. Yeah. I like that kind of stuff. And yeah, basically, like, I guess let's get into the incident.
Yeah.
Eventually, one of the times when they're over there, they get walked in on by a different North Korean guard, and things get sticky for a minute, and then it seems like, all right, maybe they can like settle this down, get out of it, not in a bloodbath. But then the South Korean guard who had come over second, just goes fucking buck wild and just kills that guard.
Well, it's like when I watch it, it feels like it's more like he doesn't even like he just
seems like
freaks out. Yeah, because like the North Korean guy, the supervisor shows up and he starts to put his gun away. They both put their guns away, but then his radio rings and he starts to reach for that, and something just snaps in Nam, and he's like, oh, is he reaching for his gun? Is he reaching for his radio to tell them to come get us or something? So he freaks out, he shoots him in the head, and then the North Korean, their friend that's not Song Kang-ho, pulls out his gun because he's freaking out, and he immediately just like shoots him in the head. And
his fucking birthday.
Lee Byung-hun, who is the other main character besides Song Kang-ho, also shoots him because he freaks out. And then other dude just shoots him like 8 more times because he's just like in a daze.
Yeah. And then basically Song Kang-ho goes over. He finishes the guard who walked in on them, and then basically allows them to shoot him in the shoulder. And they go about trying to cover this up, but the Swedish Korean lady comes over, and we figure out a piece of her past. Basically, when like the countries were forming, like the split, there was a group of prisoners. I think they said that it was like 76 prisoners,
something like that,
refused to join either side. They were like, "You're both fucked."
Yeah. So that's why then they moved to like Sweden, or they got extradited. But one of them was her dad, who was originally a North Korean citizen. Yep. And they're like, well, that means she can't work here anymore because she has ties to North Korea. So that's like one of the reasons she got let off. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I just kind of want to know now. Can you tell me? So he tells her pretty much.
Yeah. And she also has that bit where she like swaps their files so they can see each other's like stories because they didn't line up. And yeah, the this leads to, like, what I think is probably my favorite sequence in the movie, which is where the interrogation scene, where our main character, who isn't Song Kang-ho, starts to cry, and, like...
And he's about to, like, break. So then Song Kang-ho just, like, pushes him over so he doesn't break, and he's just like, I hate you! I hate that South Korea! Fuck you!
Yeah, basically, just kind of, like...
To, like, hide the fact and to stop him from, like, confessing.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we mentioned this. Nam killed himself.
Yeah, Nam kills himself.
He gets interrogated.
He tries to shoot himself, but the gun's empty, so he jumps out the window. And Lee Byung-hun sees him just jump out the window. And he's like, no. Yeah, this movie's fucking sad, too.
It is. And it's
because the very end, also, our main character is being taken away after recovering from being shot in the leg. And he pulls a gun off of one of the guards and shoots himself in the head.
Yep. It's sad.
Yeah. And then the final shot is they show a picture that a tourist took, and it's all four of them in the picture without them without them even really knowing each other. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's just one of those sad things. It's like the typical, like, just like dividing line between, like, where it's just like, man, you guys aren't that different. It's like, why has it got to be like this kind of thing? But yeah, no, this movie was really something. Really fucking whopped me in the face when I watched it. I was just like, ow. But it didn't hurt as hard as probably one of the other movies we watched. But we'll get to that. I don't know. Maybe this movie hurt a little more because I felt more personally.
This might be more emotionally devastating, but like,
yeah, there's
the other one's more uncomfortable. Probably.
Yeah, the other one's more like borders on like extreme territory.
Yeah,
it does. I don't think it quite gets there, but it's definitely inching its way in that direction. But this one's just a sad, fucked up story about reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what to really say about this one.
Yeah, no. There's not a lot to say. It's just sad. And I highly, highly recommend this movie. Mm-hmm. I've liked pretty much all of Park Chan-wook's movies I've seen. Like Stoker. Remember Stoker?
I don't, in hindsight, I don't think I really care for that one. I don't know how I felt about it at the time.
I don't remember.
I don't think I was super crazy about it back then.
We watched Stoker.
We did it in that coincidental episode with the movie it was based on.
Classic.
That I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. It's the Hitchcock one.
Was it Shadow of a Doubt?
Shadow of a Doubt,
the one?
Yeah. Okay. I always want to call it Charlie, just because Uncle Charlie is like the main thing I remember.
Uncle Charlie!
But yeah.
I think you'd give this movie a 9.
Mm-hmm. I think you would give it a 9 or a 10.
Give it an 8.
Oh, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
That's not what I was expecting.
What the fuck?
Oh, no.
Hinata really loves this movie, though. She really, really likes this movie. And I do, too.
Yeah, I forgot about your little structural point that you had mentioned.
Yeah, that one really just, like...
Which is fair.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's like my main complaint with it, but it happens throughout the whole movie. So I'm just like, I just kind of wish it had either a more just straightforward narrative structure, or they put a little more into like the middle chunk with it, because it just feels out of place, or the middle feels out of place in the overall structure, I guess.
Yeah, I feel it.
Which the middle's the best part, because it's just like they're happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're like playing soccer.
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance by Park Chan-wook.
Yes.
I read a bunch of... This did not get super well reviewed. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 50%. Like, it's really weird because it's like a year before Oldboy, and Oldboy's like super highly acclaimed by a lot of people, but it's just like a lot of people are just like, this is too extreme, and I'm like, it's not that bad. But I was like, I guess I'm just desensitized, because a lot of the movies that I do think I like that are pretty extreme did come out like 8 years later. So I'm like, maybe that's just it. Maybe it was just too extreme for 2002.
Yeah, honestly, probably.
But
But
I really like this movie.
yeah, I like it. It's depressing.
It's depressing.
Fuck.
Like the whole... No one wins. No one's a hero. No one's really a villain, I guess. Like, they're all kind of villains. Like,
it's just like the cycle of revenge and how no one really wins. It only just serves to reignite in a different form and just keep going. Because, I mean, fucking... Basically, the movie begins with this deaf guy who... His sister needs, like, a kidney transplant, and he's got this deal underway, but it's with some shady people, and oh no.
Originally, he tries to use his own kidney because he thinks he's the right blood type, and his doctor's like, you're an idiot, you're not the right blood type. Yeah. And he's like, fine, I'll get one. So he's like, we'll put you on transplant list. So yeah, he finds a flyer that they put in the bathroom of like a random public toilet being like, we sell organs. And he's like, this is a good idea. Mm-hmm. So he's like, how much is it? And they're like, give us 10 million won and your kidney. And then they take his kidney and run away, pretty much.
Yep.
And dump him.
So basically, he's like, well, I need to get my sister a kidney. And he's got this, like, girlfriend.
Yeah, because they call up and they're like, hey, we have a transplant for you. We just need the 10 million won.
And he's like, fuck. So
I don't know why I'm doing this. He cannot talk on the telephone.
That is true. That is true.
He goes in there and they say that to him.
So, yeah, he's got, like, this girlfriend. I don't know if it's established that they're like boyfriend girlfriend at this point.
I mean, they bang.
Well, I wouldn't even call them that later on necessarily, but yeah, they fuck later on.
Yeah.
But they're friends at this point, and she's like, "You dumb fuck. Well, now you gotta basically just kidnap your boss's daughter, because how else are we gonna get the money?" So because he was fired by his boss, so he's like, "All right, I'll kidnap my boss's daughter." And then he thinks about it for a second. They like go out to his house, where they watch another guy who was fired by not his boss, but Song Kang-ho's character, who is like working at the same place, like in a similar position of power.
Song Kang-ho is the president.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he's with the executive that fired him.
Mm-hmm. And it's here where he's like, all right, well, clearly I can't kidnap the executive's daughter, because like, he just fired me. They will clearly drag this back to me.
And he sees somebody like... this is when they see a guy try to commit seppuku.
Yeah.
But he has like a small little blade.
Yeah, and he just ends up like making a bunch of cuts on his stomach. And then Song Kang-ho goes up and like tries to fucking kick that.
Yeah.
Like,
but then he cuts his hand.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, if we get Song Kang-ho's daughter... then he'll think about, oh, this guy was just here.
Something I love about this movie is the hard cuts. At first, it kind of caught me off guard because I was like, I didn't know exactly what was going on at first. And then once they had done it like the second time, I was like, all right, I'm getting into the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
But the first time, because it's like, we're going to kidnap the executive's daughter. And they don't really make a plan. They don't have a point where they're like, we're going to kidnap his daughter. Instead, it's just hard cuts to like their little girl in... They're like apartment.
Yeah, and it's literally just like, well, what do you suggest instead if we're not going to get the executive daughter? And then just hard cuts to the other daughter in their house.
Yeah. And yeah, basically they're like, we're going to show her a good time, play lots of games.
Yeah. And they like make her cry just to take a picture. And they're like, okay, here you go.
Yeah. But basically what winds up happening is...
he gets the money. Mm-hmm. He ties up Song Kang-ho in the middle of like a field so he can't like immediately follow him. And then he goes back to the house and he's like, oh, I'm so happy. And then the little girl hands him a note and he reads it and it's like, I can't believe you did this. I don't want to be alive because of like you kidnapping a child. And he's like, oh shit. So he runs into the bathroom and his sister killed herself. Yep. And he's like, oh fuck. So, Jesus. Just from here on, it's just like nonstop sorrow and misery.
Yep.
He goes to, like, the lake to bury her in, like, a bunch of rocks. And he brings the kid with him because he's not going to just, like, leave her at home. And while he's on the other side of the lake, she's, like, taking a nap. And she wakes up to a a mentally disabled person who just like wanders around this area. He's like trying to take her necklace.
Yeah.
And he was earlier like
trying
he saw
to unbury the body.
Yeah, he was like he was trying to unbury the body. He was like throwing it. He was like fuck you.
Yeah.
But Song Kang or Ryu chases him away,
and
then she wakes up because of this, and she starts like going towards him, and she falls off the bridge.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was meant to imply like because at that point. We don't see the moment where she falls in. We just see, like, the after.
Yeah.
But it shows, like, the disabled guy, like, throwing rocks. And I'm not sure if it's meant to, like, suggest that she was, like, hit on the head and then fell in and she can't swim, so she drowns. But basically, after, like, he buries his sister and then he turns around and sees
she's just floating.
Yeah, eyes wide open, half her head submerged in the water, and he's just like, So he pulls her up on a rock and leaves her.
The cut between these two is, I fucking love this cut, because it's just him looking down at her, and it just cuts to Song Kang-ho in that same exact point. Yeah. I love that cut. And then that pulls, and I really like how it just shifts main characters, because from this point on, it's mostly Song Kang-ho's perspective. Yeah. It cuts back to Ryu occasionally, like when he does eventually find those, the organ dealers, and he just fucking kills them all. Yeah. And that's probably the most brutal part of
Yeah. And Song Kang-ho.
And the very end. Oof.
Yeah, Song Kang-ho is then able to, like, kind of, like, figure out roughly who did it and where they lived, and he like lines up like the photo with like the wallpaper, and
he kidnaps the girlfriend and just tortures her and kills her.
Yep. He doesn't even technically kidnap her; he just like breaks into her house, ties her up. I'm not sure what the official term for that is, but
he just tortures and kills her. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically. And then that leads to the fucked up scene, because, like, he gets stabbed when he was with the organ dealers. He got stabbed with the lady with the scalpel. And he goes back home to find, like, just a bunch of fucking cops, and they're escorting the bodies. And he gets on the elevator, and the body's, like, propped up, and the blanket starts to fall, and he, like, just looks over and sees his dead
hand.
Yeah. And it's just, like, one of those sad little moments.
And she, another important thing to note is she was part of like an anarchist movement.
She threatens Song Kang-ho before he kills her. She's like, I've given them your picture, and if you kill me, you will die.
But the cops say that she was the only one in there, which is proven wrong later. But then, so Ryu does that, and then he goes after Song Kang-ho, and he can, like, hear him. But Song Kang-ho's a lot smarter than Ryu. Like, he sees him snoring. But at the same time, I think it's really funny. There's, like, a lot of black humor in this movie as well. Like, Song Kang-ho's snoring to try to lure Ryu in, and I'm like, Ryu's deaf.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could just say he's trying to get into the part and, like, emulate the breathing.
But at the same time, I don't even know if Song Kang-ho knows that he's deaf at this point. But then he drags him to the place that his daughter dies.
That whole time I was like, I would go through the window.
Yeah, I mean...
That was like, something's not right here.
But Song Kang-ho ties him up and brings him to that same area, and then fucking cuts his Achilles heels in the water and just leaves him there, and he dies.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh!
Yeah, and those effects were pretty good, like the blood coming out in the water. Like, oh!
Yeah, I haven't cringed that hard since Pet Sematary. I was like,
fuck
I don't like those sequences.
And then Song Kang-ho gets out, and a car pulls up, because he's, like, starting to bury the body. A car pulls up, and it's the other people from the anarchist, like, organization. And they just each stab him, and they fucking pin a note in his chest with a knife that says, like, we sentenced you to death.
Yeah, and he just leans against a car, and he, like, looks up, just, like, trying to read his chest.
And I think she says the voice... Her voice, like, plays again of what she had said.
I didn't like that they did that.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to do that, but I was just like, whatever. It didn't, like, take me out, but I'm like, that was unneeded.
If I had two big criticisms of the movie, it would be that. And there's a scene earlier on where they show the little girl shirtless for, like, an extended period of time, and I was like, I don't really see what the point of that was.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of... I don't really care because
Yeah.
I don't...
There were some scenes that bordered on that kind of, like, pedophilic.
Yeah, I don't
energy.
think showing a child, like, without a shirt on is pedophilic in nature.
I
because, like, I think that...
I don't either, but I think that paired with some of the other stuff that was in the movie, like, there's a scene where, like, he's like, when he first gets back with the money, he, like, kisses her on the face, and then he, like, lets her, like, sit on his chest.
Yeah, no, there are definitely moments,
Yeah,
but
I'm just like, oh.
yeah.
But, yeah, aside from those.
It's just a fucked up movie.
Yeah, it's a fucked up movie.
But I really
Well
enjoyed
made.
it. Yeah. I was expecting something fucked up, but this was pretty brutal. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this movie.
I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd say I really enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it.
You just hate Song Kang-ho. Also, Song Kang-ho was fucking awesome in this movie.
No, yeah.
Just like in all of the movies. I'm just going to say that every time. But the guy who plays Ryu is also really good.
Mhm.
And I really like how there's like just internal monologues that's just like written occasionally. Like it'll cut to a black screen because he doesn't talk.
Mhm.
I really like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd give this movie a 6.
No.
A 7? An 8?
Yeah.
You just said, I don't know if I really like this movie.
Well,
Oh, you didn't? I get it.
Yeah.
You didn't enjoy watching it because it's sad. I get it.
Yes. You would give it an 8? A 9?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's time to talk about the... Oh, wait. Actually, I don't know if it's the host or the show must go on first.
I think they both came out the same year.
Yeah, but which came out first?
That I do not know.
This is a very interesting debate.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the host. The host. The host.
Okay.
Bong Joon-ho.
The host is like capitalism, man.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
but so are all of Bong Joon-ho's
Oh,
movies.
yeah. This movie's good. Good.
I love this movie.
Yeah. If you were to sample any movie from what we watched today, probably this would be your best bet if you're just getting into like Song Kang-ho.
And this is also my favorite out of the 5 movies. Is my favorite performance by Song Kang-ho out of all of them. I think it has pretty much everything I like about Song Kang-ho solidified in this role. Like there is the comedy, there's the brutal intensity with like just horrifically sadness, and he also is a complete idiot at the beginning.
Yeah, and he also
most of it, he's a complete idiot.
Yeah,
but
he touches into like lightly that, like, I wouldn't say as much as maybe some other films, but he kind of gets into that light action-y kind of.
Yeah, definitely. There are
more so
action
from his
scenes.
siblings.
And the fucking ending is, I think, is a fucking epic.
I like
fight.
the ending. I think
I like the final fight.
I like the final fight. I think the actual scene they decide to end on is like, I get it, but I think it's like, of all the scenes to end on that one, okay. But yeah, no, this movie's great. Basically, Song Kang-ho is just kind of a failure in life. At least that's the way that you would like.
He's just like late 30s, just living at home, working at his dad's like little convenience shack on the river.
Yeah, he's like sleeping. He's got his facing coins, which we find out more about that later. But basically, yeah, he's working at this shack. He's, saving up. He's got like this little coin jar full of dimes for maybe to buy his daughter a cell phone. But yeah, he's basically got to take out some food to some customers as an apology because he ate one of their squid legs.
So he was giving them beer.
Yeah. And while this is going on, while he's driving it off, he notices everybody's like, what's that thing over on the bridge over there? And earlier in the film, we get a scene where we see like Herschel from The Walking Dead and some other guy are dumping chemicals.
Was that Herschel from The Walking Dead?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen like the first 4 episodes of The Walking Dead, and I was like,
he doesn't
not
show
my
up until
jam.
season 2. Don't blame you. It's bad. Anyway.
Oh, fuck, I'm gonna pick all of it for the next week.
No, you're fucking not.
Do you have a pick for next week, by the way?
I do.
Okay, good. But yeah, so big monster comes out, and I really like this as like a monster movie because it shows up so early, and it's not even like the main antagonist is like life, you know. But this is the main antagonist for them. But the monster grabs his daughter, and then the rest of the movie is like Song Kang-ho trying to get his daughter back.
Yeah, and
failing.
Yeah, him and his family, like his sister is like
a bronze medalist, and she just like breaks under pressure mostly.
Yeah, and his brothers like went to college but can't get a job, so he's just kind of he's famous for like being kind of like a good escape artist essentially. Like he's good at like getting out of sticky situations. And yeah, the father, he's doing his
convenience guy.
But yeah, basically they all come together to try to escape. So basically, like, the monster attacks, and then, like, the South Korean government and the U.S. military basically gather everyone together, and they're like, anyone who was present during the monster, you're infected, probably. We need to keep you disease control. Stop the spread. So they put him in quarantine, and Song Kang-ho's family escapes from that and goes out on the hunt, and then later on, everybody kind of gets split up. The dad dies.
Because Song Kang-ho, like...
miscounted his bullets.
And that's actually, like, a perfect example of why I really like this movie as, like, a horror movie. Because in a lot of, like, horror movies, people make mistakes, which is fine, but a lot of them are fucking stupid. But every mistake in this movie is, like, a very reasonable thing. Like, Song Kang-ho miscounts something. Or...
grabs the wrong hand.
Yeah, which is, you know, like... And people like to talk about he's a bad father in this movie. And he's a bad employee. I don't know if I would go to say he's a bad father. He gives the kid, like, a drink of beer.
Yeah.
Like, there are things he's not great at. But in general, it's obvious he loves his daughter. And, like, he's everything. He's just bad in these situations.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't call him a bad father. Like... not rich, not successful, but he's definitely trying. You can tell the whole time, you know, he wants to spend quality time with his daughter. He shares, like, the first beer with her.
And he's, like, constantly just trying to... He's convinced she's not dead even before she, like, calls him.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so they escape. They go after her. The dad dies after revealing, like, basically, like, that... basically, he was a piece of shit. And he's kind of... he blames himself for why Song Kang-ho's character is the way he is. Basically, he thinks, like, he had, like, the potential to be, like, a really smart, bright guy, but basically he wasn't around when he was a kid and didn't give him the proper, like, development he needed, both from just, like, a parenting standpoint and also just a nutrient standpoint, because, like, he didn't eat very much, so just, like, he thinks that had an effect on him, and that's why he dozes off so much in the movie. And I like this scene because he's basically just telling his siblings, like, hey, guys, you guys are being really hard on him. He's trying. Just don't be hard on him. But both the siblings just fucking fall asleep during this, and he's just like, whatever, I just need to get this off my chest because I'm going to be dead in the next scene. But yeah, so I like that. And yeah, basically they all get split up after that. Song Kang-ho goes back to the quarantine facility where they lobotomize him.
But it does, like, fully work, and he's like, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you!
Yeah, and then the American guy shows up, and he's like, what, you don't know? Alright, what I'm about to tell you is really confidential and really convenient for the sake of this movie, but I love this scene so much.
I think it's really funny, so...
So he basically explains his evil plot, like, step for step.
It's mostly just the government is just, like, hiding things. And
yeah,
it's like...
there is no disease.
Yeah,
and Song Kang-ho...
there's no virus, and he just leans over, he's like, no virus?
Yeah, and they're just like, this guy can talk fucking English? Uh-oh.
And I'm like, maybe not, but you just said no virus. Like, that's not...
enough to where he can pick up at least that little bit, and so So they lobotomize him,
but it doesn't, like, fully take, because lobotomies are the pseudo, they're not real. Like, it's not, it's just, like, poking the brain.
Exactly.
But it doesn't work, and he escapes. He grabs his syringe.
To be, like, catatonic for a second, and they're like, "Oh, look at this fucking vegetable!" And he just fucking like, ah!
He escapes and he goes to, because right before he had pretty much figured out where the monster was going.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of figure that out through their own means.
Yeah.
And the older brother has to, like, escape.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the little girl, his daughter, has been down in the sewer, and a little boy has shown up.
Yeah, a little boy shows up who we see at the very beginning try and, like, steal from the convenience stand while Song Kang-ho's asleep.
Yeah.
But he shows up, he's captured by the monster, and the daughter's trying to keep him safe, and they try to escape, but instead they get eaten by the monster.
Yeah. And also, I just want to bring this up before I completely forget this plot point, because I found it to be fascinating. The idea that they would bring in, like, these big chemical things, like, they're like, there's a disease running loose, we're gonna just send gaseous chemicals through the street, and it immediately just starts making, like, people's ears and orifices bleed. It's like, what was the game plan here?
Well, I mean, like, I know that the gas was specifically to kill that monster, the monster was, like, people knew about the monster. They were just saying that the monster caused the disease in people.
I see. Okay, I thought the gas was for the citizens.
No, all the citizens that were there were not supposed to be there. They were like, fuck you!
They were protesting.
Yeah. And they all had, like, shirts and banners of Song Kang-ho, like, free him!
Well, that's what they get for protesting. What were they expecting?
But they also, it was obvious that they knew the protester would be there, because they're, like, writing down things, like, obviously, like, the effects on humans. All in general, like, the humans and the government is so fucked up in this movie. Just like in real life.
I guarantee if this monster existed, that something somewhat close to what happens in this movie would probably have happened.
Do you think a conservative would watch this movie and be like, this is proof COVID was not real?
I was watching this movie the whole time, and I'm like, man, I bet this would fucking send a lot of fucking conservatives like, yeah, this movie's fucking great. It's telling you not to, like, fucking believe in government diseases and shit. And I was like,
there's so many things. There are so many Bong Joon-ho movies that I think conservatives would watch and completely miss the point of. Yeah. It's like the people that watched Parasite and was like, yeah, isn't it so scary to think that somebody could be living in the basement of your house? I'm like, what? That's not... What?
That's not the takeaway from this movie.
What?
It's like, man, can you imagine getting hit in the head with a rock? But yeah, so so basically, the monster comes up to gas in it, and on top of that, the daughter.
Song Kang-ho sees her because the monster, like, falls over, and Song Kang-ho sees the daughter's, like, hand gripping the teeth still, and he pulls her out along with the kid, and he, like, immediately takes her away and just leaves the kid there.
Yeah.
Eventually he goes back, but it's another thing, and I'm just like, it's shock, it's obvious, like, it's fine. I don't blame him for not taking this other, like, child that he has no idea about. Mm-hmm. But then they do a, like, final fight with the monster where he, like, starts hitting the monster with a fucking, like, pole.
Yeah, like he did earlier in the movie.
But this time he, like, breaks the cement off and just starts, like, stabbing it. But then he gets, like, knocked out. And then the brother, who had befriended a homeless gentleman.
Yeah. He's got, like, Molotov cocktails that he's throwing. And then
he's doing some damage. And he's like, oh, this is gonna be the one. And he fucking just...
I wouldn't say he was really doing damage. He missed, like, every single fucking
but he was scaring him. But this one, it was like, oh, this is gonna hit. This is gonna hit. Because the homeless guy just poured a bunch of gasoline on the guy.
And it's established earlier in the movie that whenever, like, it's raining or whatever, this monster, like, basically will just, like, open its mouth and get it.
So it's drinking the gasoline.
Yeah, and then the brother misses the Molotov cocktail.
Yeah, he just fucking drops it. He's like, oh, fuck.
So the sister comes in with an arrow, catches it on fire, and shoots that fucker right in the eye.
And then he goes on fire, and he's like,
it's gonna run back into the water.
And then suddenly Song Kang-ho just comes out from behind a pillar and just holds it, and he fucking has the pole in his hand. He's like, oh, and there you see the ring at the end. I'm like, that's such a fucking cool shot. Mm-hmm. And the monster dies.
Yeah, and so does the daughter.
And so does the daughter. And then it ends with him like taking care of the son and remembering the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't like that ending scene?
I
really like the ending shot of I think it's really pretty of it snowing and the hut's just in the middle of the snow.
I like that shot. I get the purpose of the ending. I don't know. Of all the scenes to end it on, I was like, But I get it's to like
it should have been him like kick flipping.
It should have been. Should have been him going back outside.
Should have been 20 more monsters coming out.
Yeah, because I mean, they poured a lot of that chemical.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think it only mutated one fish?
I like to imagine it mutated a bunch, but then that one just ate all of the other ones or something.
I almost wonder, because they say
When's
it's
the
got
host
like multiple tails and it's got multiple eyes. I wonder if it was just multiple mutated fish just like...
It's like melded together pretty much, yeah. But, yeah, I think this movie kicks ass. Like, yeah, I think that in general, the CG on the monster definitely has aged in 14 years, but this is probably one of my favorite monster designs. I love the look of this monster, and I love the way it moves. I love how it uses its tail like swing on the fucking like underbelly of bridges and stuff. And I really like the weird mouth it has.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of really cool epic moments, like that final fight. But I also like how the daughter, that bow and arrow sequence, like had so much build up, and I think it was really worth it.
Because like obviously when the movie starts and you see that she misses, you're waiting for like that to pay off.
But that happens multiple times too. Like she's like fighting the monster, and she's like, oh, and she can't do it, and she's doing it again, and then she's pulled back, and then finally she does it, and
yeah. It's nice, because, like, there's a couple... Yeah, it's just, like... I'm glad it just wasn't, like, mentioned at the beginning, and then it just shows up right there at the end for, like it's, like, a box to be checked off. I like that it kept coming back. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. This movie is just extremely well-paced, well-made. It's a good genre masher.
Yeah.
It's well-written. It's, like, surface level enough, but got enough of, like... of a context behind it to where it's not just completely just like, I'm watching the most basic shit ever.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good experience. It's a well-rounded movie. Yeah, just like most Bong Joon-ho movies.
Yeah, he makes really nice, and they're always really accessible to people. Mm-hmm. Like that's Bong Joon-ho's like superpower. He can make things that are incredibly dense if you really want them to be, like in their themes and their characters, but also extremely accessible for people to just watch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So yeah, I'd highly recommend The Host.
That's why you're going to give it an 8.
Yeah. 10.
I think it's still a 9 now. No, fuck it, 10.
Okay.
No, 10. I can't.
There you go.
I keep giving 10s. That's the 4th. Yeah, now I've given 4 Bong Joon-ho movies 10s.
I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, this movie probably deserves it.
This movie just...
It's a good...
Can you give it a 10 then?
Well, no, I don't. Oh. I don't think so.
Yeah, sure.
But I can see why you would give it a 10.
But it's just like, this one just gets better on every watch. I feel like the next time I watch a Taxi Driver, it'll finally get that 10 for me. Because I've watched it, I think, 3 times, and it keeps getting a 9, but it keeps getting better. So I'm just like, that's probably a 10 next time.
Yeah. Is the show must go on the last one?
Yep. Show must go on. This is one that I hadn't really heard a lot about, but I kept seeing it, and I always really liked the poster because Song Kang-ho was just like, hey, on it. I was like, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And it's by a guy that I've never heard of. And I kind of just wanted an obscure pick for one of them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the weakest of the 5, in my opinion.
I'd probably say it's tied for me.
What, with Foul King for you? Okay. Yeah, I like the Foul King more than you, so that makes sense.
I think the best sequence in this movie is the stabbing attempt sequence. That whole...
I think the back half of this movie is exceptional. I think that the front half is a little weak in general. And I think the pacing of this movie is really bad.
I agree.
Really bad.
I think this movie, it suffers between being a generic gangster movie and being a generic Lifetime drama movie.
And it's only lifted above that because Song Kang-ho is incredible in this movie.
He is.
He is. Like I said, the host, but like this has the writing's not great, but he's so good in this movie.
Yeah, he gives a fucking 10 out of 10.
That fucking scene, like at the end, the fucking closing scene.
Oh yeah,
so fucking devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the idea behind this movie. It's just not great.
So he's gangster dad. He's in this gang. He's loyal to his boss, who basically helped him out of a situation. He's got his brother who is in a rival gang called the Jaguars. And his brother's always like, come over to our side. He's like, I can't. I'm loyal to my boss. But as the film goes on, basically, the boss's brother is jealous of him and basically attempts a hit on him with some guys coming and stabbing him after he's secured this good contract deal, and basically this stabbing thing gets really big wide publicity, and so he gets taken off that project. So he attacks the brother with a bat, and then the boss is like, what the fuck are you doing? That's my brother, don't do that. He's like, alright, it's fine. So he ends up kind of leaving, and then
he just kind of walks away.
And meanwhile, at home, his daughter hates him because he's a fucking gangster, and his wife also is on the route of hating him.
But he's really, he's trying to get out. He wants to do this last big thing so he can get this money. He has this house that he put a deposit down for. Mm-hmm. And he also has a son in college in Canada that he's paying for. Mm-hmm. And he's just I need this money.
So basically, his wife's leave the gang or divorce me. I'm not gonna do this anymore.
And he's like, okay, I will. He asks, and he goes to the son, and he's like, hey, I want to apologize, and I want out, and all I want is the brother. The brother, I don't know why I said the son. He talks to the brother, and he's like, all I want is the convenience stand. He has there's a grocery stand that they have in their empire, and he's like, I just want that.
Yeah, it's
because that's one of the things I like.
I'm not good at anything else. It's what my wife wants. I literally just want this life. I'll stay out of your hair. I'll let you. And basically,
he's like, why didn't you just go to the brother? And he's like, I think it would be better if we ended on decent terms. And he's like, okay. And he starts to go, and he's like, hey, wait up. And he walks up, and he just fucking stabs Song Kang-ho. And Song Kang-ho's like, ah! And he fucking throws him in the car, beats the shit out of him, and just drives off.
Yeah, and he's about to kill him. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. And he gets on the phone with the guy from the Jaguars, his friend, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy. And he's like, don't. We can use him as leverage and bait for your boss. He's like, I can't. He's thinking about it for a second, but then as he's about to kill this guy, he's like, I'm sorry, please don't kill me. My brother, he told me that he wishes you were his brother, not me. And he's like, fuck, I can't do this.
So he throws him in the trunk.
So he can't escape again.
And he talks to the brother, and he's like, listen, we'll just meet up. I understand. And he's like, I'll come alone.
Yeah.
And he's driving there, and then all the fucking...
all of his...
mobs, the brothers, men show up, and they just start chasing him, and they get into a car crash, and the brother dies. The younger brother dies. So then when he shows up to the meeting, the older brother tries to kill him. He's like, you killed my brother. And then they get into a fight. Song Kang-ho gets shot in the leg.
Yeah,
but then he turns and he kills him. Yeah.
It's like, I didn't kill him. I told you I didn't kill him, you fucking asshole. And he's like, shoots him because he's like, well, I don't think I'm going to walk out of this. One of us has to die in this scenario, essentially.
And then he goes to the hospital and then prison. And then his wife is like, hey, be good in there. Actually turn yourself around this time.
And he's basically like,
no. Well, he's like, okay. And then he decides not to because he thinks that he can just he joins the Jaguars so that he can get a bunch of money for his wife. Mm-hmm. And then they all go to Canada, and he sits in his home watching home videos, eating ramen and crying.
Yep.
I think the ending to this movie is fantastic, and I think this is also like a super effective look at like not just mafia, but like capitalism as a whole, and how it's like this endless vicious cycle that you can't get out of if you want to like have a decent life for your family. He's like, I want to get out, and then he can't get out if he wants his family. Yeah. So he gives all this money to his family, and he suffers for it. Mm-hmm. But I just think that the rest of the movie's just really weak. Or not really weak, but just much weaker than Song Kang-ho's level.
I had a fun time, like, watching the movie. Like, I don't think there was any points in it where I was like, fuck this movie.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't mean that. I just mean it's weaker, and I do think that the pacing is abysmal.
There was a couple points where I'm like, oh, the movie. Like, because I was watching this out in the living room on the heat wave day, and my parents were out there. I'm like, oh, yeah, the movie's like, about to be over. And then it went on for, like, a lot longer. And I'm like, oh.
Were they watching with you?
Not really. Kind of. Like, they would tune in every once in a while.
They're like, why is he not speaking English?
Yeah, they're like, what the hell are you watching? It's a gangster movie. Leave me alone. But yeah. This movie's alright. Like I said, I think the best sequence in this movie is the sequence where the guys try to come and stab him while he's at a convenience store.
That was fun. That's a fun scene too.
Yeah,
it's like it's pretty cool. It's well choreographed, but it's also fun. He's like jumping over stuff.
The whole movie is like shot with like handheld, and I think that's like one of the few only scenes where it works. A lot of the time when they're doing it, like there's a few scenes where I'm like, I feel like I'm watching like a fucking MTV like reality show.
Mr. Song-hyo!
Like. There's a particular scene where, like, the daughter and mother are on the couch watching the stabbing sequence go on, and it looks like shit. Like, it just does not look good. But yeah. This movie's fine.
Yeah. This movie's fine. This was the first one I watched, too.
This is the second one, because I rewatched The Host first. I watched this one. Then I watched... what was the middle one? Not the...
Joan Security Area.
Yes. And then, fucking Revenge, or Mr. Vengeance, and, the fucking Foul King. But yes, this movie...
You give it a 6 as well, I guess?
Yeah, I'd give it a 6. I'd probably, under normal circumstances, give it a 5.
But Song Kang-ho. Yeah. He elevates this to like a 10. No.
Like I said, he gives a 10 performance, but it's definitely like a 5 or a 6. Yeah. Give this like 6 or 7?
6. Okay. There's only one movie that I've watched with Song Kang-ho that I've given less than a 6 at this point. I gave The President's Barber a 5. But it's like all of the movies I've watched with him are like, even if they're not amazing, he's so good in them. Yeah. So I was like, but yeah. I guess here. Dice.
Oh yeah. Well here, hold on. I've got the rankings.
Oh yeah.
So for your rankings, I put, oh god, hold on. Let's see if it'll show me my fucking notes. Okay. So, for your number 1, I had The Host.
Yep.
Then I had Sympathy.
Yep.
Then I had JSA.
Yep.
Then I had Falcon.
Yep.
And The Show Must Go On.
Yep. Perfect. Yours is Joint Security Area.
Mm-hmm.
The Host.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Foul King and Show Must Go On, but those are kind of...
Those two are swapped.
Okay.
Honestly, yeah, I might put The Falcon above The Show Go On after talking about it a little more, but I don't know. They're like... I'd probably say The Falcon is a little more consistent of a film than The Show Must Go On, definitely.
Yeah.
But...
All right. 2, 3, 4, we do the bag.
4, 3, 7.
That means we do 2 bag episodes. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
All right, what are we watching, Thomas?
So we are going to be watching.
Is it bad?
You might think one of them's bad. I don't know. Maybe you won't. We're going to be watching Dawn of the Dead from 1978, and we're going to be watching Dawn of the Dead from 2004.
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. I'm going to be watching the theatrical cut.
Okay, I will also then.
Yeah, you can find full uploads on YouTube, because one of the producers of Dawn of the Dead is a fucking dickhole and spent a lot of money converting the film into 3D in the early 2000s, and refuses to sell the film rights for any less than he spent making it into 3D. So no one's willing to buy it over here. So we do not have any official releases over here from the turn of this century. Not true. There's a couple DVD sets that came out, and one basic bitch Blu-ray set, but it's just like the DVD and basic commentary. But yeah. So those are the two we will be watching.
Cool.
Zack Snyder.
George A. Romero.
Thanks everybody for tuning into Screen Weeds 101, baby!
Woo!
Not as good as Wild Hogs, though.
Oh, true.